It's Astrology Roast. I think it needs to sound like a shitty intro, like a funny, shitty intro.
Hi everyone and welcome back to Astrology Roast. My name is Keren.
And my name is Etai, and we are back.
We sure are, and I don't know if it's too early to reveal this, but I am recording this from a little quaint city known as Buenos Aires.
Oh my God.
In Argentina. Buenos Aires. I can't obviously pronounce it. And listen, I'll be honest, my Spanish is woeful and absolutely terrible, but I have been speaking the language of love and the language of smiles. And yes, I've probably been overcharged throughout this entire trip in Argentina, but I have had a great time so far. I've been here a total of maybe 48, 70 or so hours, I don't know. But I feel like I am very well equipped now to comment on the political situation in Argentina, the culture here, the people, the food. Obviously, you know, my knowledge of Spanish is increasing by the hour. I can say empanada, I can say agua.
Minuta.
By the minuta. I don't know, sometimes I just say things with a accent and I think that people will understand. So even though you don't say, like to say excuse me, you say pardon, but I keep saying or permiso, and I keep saying scusi, which is completely wrong, but I just say it really loudly.
Italian.
It's Italian, and like...
I think so. At least you are talking a Latin language.
Yes, and I've had Jennifer Lopez in my head this entire trip, which again, she's not from Argentina whatsoever, but I've had her beautiful, beautiful song, Amor, 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 in my head this entire trip, and I keep singing it out loud with all the incorrect Spanish words. But it is a city of love. It's a city of, you know, no one sleeps, everyone is out and about, everyone's very connected, and you know, it's just, I really feel very connected here, and it's been so amazing. It's been about a day, but it's amazing to be here. And look, this is our dedication to Astrology Roast. We don't stop, you know. It doesn't matter if we're traveling to Argentina or if you're traveling to your parents' house in Nitzan. We still record as often as we can. So
look at us. We are an international podcast, literally. Like, you know, every episode we're on a different continent. And I think that is an achievement. Also, I think that it's really weird that you don't speak Spanish, because I thought all Geminis can speak all languages.
Well,
because
that's
you guys
the thing.
are...
That's the thing. Like, I don't feel like I can't speak Spanish. Like, I definitely can't speak Spanish at all, but I feel like I am Spanish.
Yeah. Well,
and I feel like I am part of the fabric of this society now. Like, it's only been a few days, but I've already... you know, feel like I've been able to see beautiful music here and connect with beautiful people. I'm being hosted by two very attractive people who are dear friends of mine, a Virgo and an Aries. So as you can imagine, with that beautiful combination of the fire energy and the Virgo earth energy, it's both organized, it's passionate, shit's getting done. Like, it's all of the right qualities for my air-like quality. I didn't even have a passport until a few days before I left. I didn't have the right injections that I needed. I booked the flights like a week before, and so I've been very last minute. So I'm very grateful that it's all kind of come together, because I've had these beautiful friends of mine from Melbourne who are, you know, they are literally fluent in Spanish, and I just feel, I feel very, very good here. And Etai, I can hear that there's a police siren where you are. So this truly is an international political podcast.
It is. I live in Tel Aviv at the moment, so obviously, well, I don't know if it's a police or what do you call it, like first aid, like an ambulance. But I think I said that on the podcast already, that if we ever hear this siren, we say, oh, it's someone giving birth. Like, you know, we assume the best, that it's just a happy moment of a woman giving birth and not a police that's going to
Well, you've summed up Israeli culture very well there. Very relentlessly positive people, always with a smile.
So positive.
Always
so
smiling.
Optimistic, you know.
So
it is
optimistic.
a beautiful place.
It is.
Well, we apologize in advance for the, ambulance noises, for the people making breakfast noises. We are international, but we are also self-made.
Yes.
As J-Lo says, don't be fooled by the rocks that we got. But it is Scorpio season that has just begun, and everyone online saying, it's going to be hard, but we're going to come up on the other side. We're going to come on top. We're going to, like the phoenix, we're going to burn and we're going to rise from the ashes. And it's just this season, and it's going to be rough. And I'm like, it has been rough for the last 6 months. It's not... Why is everyone saying that Scorpio season is the rough time of the year? Libra season was pretty bad. Virgo season was difficult. Leo season was tiring. I'm like, this has been a theme. You can't just say Scorpio season is going to be hard and then we're going to come on top. I'm sorry. I want to change the narrative.
There's that positive Israeli attitude that we just discussed. Always looking at the bright side.
I'll never forget how you told me before I left Melbourne. You said, look, it's going to be hard before, it's going to be hard during, and it's going to be hard after. It's going to be difficult the whole time. I'm like, yeah, that's the attitude I can vibe with,
Yes. And to speak to what you just said about people talking about Scorpio season as if it's going to be hard, I feel quite the opposite. I get excited when we tack over from Libran season into Scorpio, because Scorpionic energy is about all of the themes that make me feel happy and invigorated and enlivened, much like I feel in Argentina, my true self. But Scorpio season is the same. It is mysterious, it's intense, it's sexual, it's about shedding and transformation, and so it's intense, but it's for a very beautiful psychic purpose. So I think, if you're of the more superficial inclination, sure, you might struggle and feel a bit rocky. But if you're already in the depths of the underground and the underbelly of society, then you are just swimming in the best possible shit ever. You are a pig in shit, happy, and finally everyone is up to speed. It's much the same as when Mercury goes retrograde or Venus goes retrograde, and you have those transits in your chart when you were born. So if you were born during Scorpio season, or if you have a lot of Scorpionic energy, or if you're attracted to Scorpios, as I am, and I've said this often, then you are looking at this next month or so with great excitement. And I think we're just about to move into a new moon in Scorpio, and because Scorpio is such a psychic, strong energy, the fact that it's a new moon in Scorpio is extra exciting for me, because it's the combination of the moon qualities of shedding and transformation and newness and initiation with psychic energy, taboos, the underground, that which we do not want to reveal. So I love it sick, and I think there's a couple of stories hopefully we'll talk about around Scorpios and what makes them so amazing and horrifyingly scary. As well. My God, exactly. So I'm excited, but I'm sorry, Ty, that you're feeling a bit over the fact that, yes, it's been a shit and interesting couple of months. Although I'd like to reveal to Astrology Roast listeners that according to a spy that I've sent to Israel a little while ago called Lauren the Leo, who we love, or also known as Miss Inside and Out, who promotes body positivity and sells bags, she said that you are in Israel running that city, that you have 5 mobile phones, that you always have your little phone under the table texting 50,000 different people, that you are social and busy every 5 minutes. She said, imagine Etai in Melbourne, but times it by 500, and you have him in Israel. His social muscles are being flexed every 5 seconds. God. And I felt so proud, because I know that you are such a beautiful social butterfly. I mean, you were in Melbourne, but I know that in Israel, that relentlessly positive place that you live in, where people smile and it's the land of milk and honey, and there's no recession and there's no war, and people are never angry when they're driving or screaming at each other. I know that that's the rhythm that makes you happy. It's where you thrive. So I felt a little bit of nachas, which is the Hebrew Jewish word for pride, when she mentioned that you are just slaying. You're absolutely slaying there.
I don't know if slaying is the right word, but I'm doing my best, I'm just doing my best. And as you said, Scorpio season is here. If you're down in the underbelly, your suggestion was like, just dig a bit deeper. So I'm going to do that. And my discovery of a Scorpionic behavior this season was, I put up on the Instagram, on our Instagram, a question of like, who's a Scorpio example for you? And someone wrote that Leonardo DiCaprio, which is, one of the most famous Scorpios, had a bet with Tom Hardy, which is a Virgo. And we spoke about how hot Virgo men are and how much little credit they get. Anyway, they had a bet. Tom Hardy lost the bet. And Leo got him to tattoo on his arm, Leo knows all, which is the most Scorpio shit I've ever heard. One, the concept of tattoo, just like, I'm sure a Scorpio invented tattoos, like let's poke ink into your skin, like it's going to be painful but worth it and stylish, and it's going to be unique. And then to get Tom Hardy to tattoo on his fucking arm, not even like on his forehead, on his the back of his head or anything, on his arm. Leo knows all. Imagine a Virgo having to walk around with the daily reminder of a mistake they made, of a bet they lost. That's horrible.
It's absolutely horrible. And, you remind me the other day, a Virgo came up to me and said, I've started listening to your podcast and you diss us all the time. And I was like, listen, none of them listen, like no Virgos listen anymore. So I felt like I've had carte blanche, freedom to say whatever the fuck I like. And then soon after saying that, she did mention that she pays for my bills and she does all this. I'm like, yes, Virgos, they know. They always have to have the last word. They know. And but they're beautiful. And as I said, I'm currently, sleeping next to a very beautiful Virgo who, I must say, is not the Virgo qualities that I constantly mention on this podcast. So I'm sorry, Virgos, but I would like to also say some information about Scorpio archetypes, which people might be interested to know about. So the sign of Scorpio is actually ruled by 3 different archetypes, which all represent the cycles of death, birth, and transformation, and resurrection, I should say. So Scorpio is represented by the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix. Yes. So those all represent very different, the underworld, the earthly incarnation, and then death. And also, interestingly, in ancient Egypt, which, right next door to you, Etai, the scorpion, or the Scorpio, that little, is it a bug? No, is it a lizard? What would we call it? Creature? It's a creature.
Oh my God. It's a reptile, isn't it?
It's a reptile. So the scorpion was believed to help souls transition from their body and into the afterlife. So scorpions would be seen as the soul was letting go of the earthly body and moving into the next realm. And I think that's why we talk a lot about the sexual nature of Scorpios. And last night I met a beautiful Libran who had like 5 different placements in Scorpio. And we couldn't speak, obviously I've said my Spanish is woeful, and she couldn't speak English. She's from Brazil. And being a Libran, she was covered all in glitter all over her body, and was wearing a hat, but kept taking the hat on and then waving it and then dancing with it and then putting the hat on. And then every 5 minutes she'd think, I don't want the hat anymore, and put it down. And then she would put the hat on someone else. And I'm like, you're so Libran, you can't decide what the fuck to do with your hat, but you can decide to cover your entire body with glitter. But anyway, she did tell me in her Spanish that through the translation of my friends who speaks actual Spanish, that she has multiple placements in Scorpio. And I said in my, terrible English, because I don't speak English anymore because now I'm fully Spanish speaking because I've been here 3 days. But I was like, oh, Scorpio, very sexual. And she said, oh, mucho sexual, mucho sexual. And she looked at me nodding. She's like, oh, so sexual, so sexual. And I was like, okay, calm down. But I must say, this happens more often than not. Anyone with strong Scorpio placement or who is a Scorpio sun will always, whenever I say to them, oh, Scorpios, they're so sexual, they nod knowingly and they're like, yep, 100%. There's no shadow of a doubt. And I think it's a very different type of sexuality compared to the Aries sexuality. So Aries are also known to be, really up for it and really ready to go at any moment. And I will mention soon a beautiful Aries that I met in Argentina in my first few days here, who I hope might be listening now, but I'll mention her later. But Aries is that kind of traditional view of the Mars, the masculine sexuality of like, go get it, I'm up for it, let's go. But Scorpio is watery, emotional, intense sexuality. So it's that sexual attraction that you feel when you think someone may, steal your clothes or steal your bank account details whilst you sleep, or shave your hair off whilst you sleep. And I've got a few stories that relate to that, but it's a different mysterious sexuality. So I think this is going to be an amazing month, and I think everyone should strap themselves in for a wild ride.
Yes, and I think that, first of all, thank you so much for all of these explanations, because I think they're super interesting.
These
and
unsolicited explanations, but yes,
very, and your English is great. Like,
I know.
Really
I was going to say, it's such a struggle to record this in English. I'm forgetting the words, so thank you everyone for your patience, because it's like I'm forgetting the words.
You got stuck there a little bit with the reptile and what is a Scorpio really?
I know. I can only say it in my version of Spanish, reptilia. All I was thinking was reptilia. I couldn't translate it into English.
But I think that Scorpios usually, I don't know, there's a bit of a beef, I would say, between the Scorpios and the fire signs, because there's some Scorpios who love to say that if there was a fourth fire sign, it would be them. And to me, it's like, just like stick to your own group. Like there's enough of the fire signs. Like a Leo, Sag, and Aries are too many signs to share a group. It's really full on. But also, you're right. It's Mars. It is the energy of Mars that is in traditional astrology goes to Aries and Scorpio, but it's so different. It's so, if anything, as an Aries, it's hard for me to admit that we are more, what would you say, like an early version of that energy, a very new version, unregulated version of that energy. And the Scorpio is so much more rich and, I don't know, like developed kind of energy. So I'm like, just enjoy your water quality mixed with Mars, which is crazy to begin with, and just be a water sign and stalk everyone you know. But
and most of them think that they are fire signs. So a lot of Scorpios out there often go, "I'm fire, aren't I?" And so they actually don't even know that they're...
Yeah, all they know is that they're good at sex and that they're supposed to be a fire sign. Get educated, Scorpio.
And that they're good at revenge.
Oh, yeah, they know that.
Yes.
Well, obviously you can't really tell a story about a Scorpio without asking for their consent, even if it's like the most, banal story that is like boring and no one would care about. We did ask for a story from a Scorpio to be able to share their story, and I just feel like, we went through the effort of sending them a message and getting consent. So I feel like you should tell the story about a Scorpio that I think would really represent the sign.
Yes. Well, listen, full disclosure, she's not a Scorpio sun. She is a Taurus sun, Scorpio moon. And I have discovered lately, and, I'm sure people don't really need to know all of my self-disclosures and discoveries, but I'm going to share them. I've discovered lately when I am usually attracted to someone, but I don't really know why. And I'm like, okay, like, here's someone with this or here's someone with that, but it doesn't quite fit. And then every time, and then I'm like, oh, Scorpio moon, Scorpio moon, Scorpio moon. And then I get entangled. I get entangled in situationships or in things that I cannot get out of. And that is the scorpionic energy of like it sucks you in and you can't get out. But anyway, because it's water, you're sinking in water. But anyway, so this beautiful person who I'm not attracted to, who is a colleague that I work with, is a Scorpio moon. And she was telling me this story over some after work drinks. And I was just like, God damn, like I picked you a mile away. I knew from the second I met her, I was like, there's some Scorpio in this woman. I can feel it. I don't know it yet, but it's there. And then she's like, oh, Scorpio moon, obviously. So she was telling a story about how she had an ex-boyfriend who I think she was on again, off again. And if she's listening, I'm sorry if I butcher this story. I was trying to pay attention, but, I'm a Gemini, so I think I'm making this up now. But she was in an on-again, off-again relationship with this guy, and I think they were off, or maybe like that, maybe not dating. And she said he'd just been overseas for a bit and he came back, and she knew that he was going to see a band, his favourite band in the entire world, and he had tickets to see this gig, and it would have been like the most exciting thing for him in his life. And she also mentioned that he was obsessed with his bike, and he was one of those bicycle nerds who loved cycling everywhere and had a really fancy AF bicycle. So she waited until he was going to this gig that she knew he'd be at. Obviously, he would have ridden his bike to the gig, and she texted him whilst he was at the gig from an anonymous number saying, hi, I've got your bike. I've stolen your bike. If you want it back, you have to contact me. So he had to leave the gig to go and check if the bike had been stolen. And then she called him later being like, ha ha ha, lol, just a joke. And she didn't quite understand why he didn't find it funny at all. She's like, I wanted him to have to leave his gig and also to think that the thing in the world that was most important to him was stolen from him. And I was like, holy shit, in what person's world is that a joke? Is that funny? And that is so calculated and so vengeful. It's like you're taking the time and the care and the caution to wait till someone's in their very favourite, doing their favourite thing, and then you tell them that their other favourite thing has been stolen. Like, I just think it was fantastic when she told that story. And I was very intrigued. Because my love language is avoidance, as I've said before, but also one of my love languages is, that sweet, sweet revenge and that cat and mouse quality. I don't know if anyone who's listening to the podcast has seen the show Killing Eve, but that show in and of itself is a very Scorpio show. It's about a investigator, a policewoman played by Sandra Oh, who's pursuing a serial killer, a female serial killer, and they both are kind of also hot for each other as well. So it's like sexual, but they're trying to kill each other, and it's constantly erring between sexual energy and murderous qualities, which for me are kind of, on the same side of the same coin, and it's very much the Scorpio approach to life. So, yes, I just thought that was super emblematic of Scorpio vibes and fucking scary and enticing at the same time as well.
It's amazing. And I love how, when it comes to revenge, every side will be different. Like some people would just love to talk about it, or like to... I can imagine like an Aries in the heat of the moment, like planning the worst vengeful thing, but never going through with it, or like a Leo coming up with dramatic ideas but never doing it.
Yes.
And then you'll have like Virgos, which I feel like will plan it, will write it down, will have everything in place, but again wouldn't actually do, or get someone else to do it for them. But then the Scorpios, like, I just feel like in my head she did that whole thing without telling anyone else. Like, she wasn't like taking a friend with and saying like, lol, let's do it together, it's going to be fun. She was just like by herself, stealing a bike, calling him. Like, it's like Scorpios, they're fucking
But she didn't
scary.
even steal the bike. She just sent a message saying, your bike's been stolen. I've got it. Like, she didn't, there's no action in it, but there's calculated Calculated revenge. That's what I love about it. Like when I think about, let's say, Sagittarius revenge, I always think about Britney Spears putting her cryptic Instagram, you know, mottos towards the media saying, you know, what, give us an example, Etai, of something that she's posted recently that maybe is her approach to revenge but makes zero sense to anyone.
Well, she's like, it's like every time people blame her for not doing her own Instagram, she just goes like 5 videos of her working out from the same day, you know? Like, she's like, I post my own shit, but like the weirdest, or like, I'm going to stop and smell the roses or stuff like that.
But you know what? It does make me stop and smell the roses when Britney Spears posts a huge photo saying "stop and smell the roses" or "life's short." There's some kind of gravity in those words that no other Instagram account can make me stop and think in the same way.
My favorite thing is where she, you know how she, obviously, you know, the song "Gimme More," which is, it's like a symbol for her, you know, her greatness and her fall. Like she put it out when she was at her lowest point, but then it's one of her most critically acclaimed songs. And you know how some artists, they're so serious about what they do, and then she posted a picture of an ice cream bowl, and she wrote, "Gimme more." I'm like, her referencing her songs is like in the weirdest context.
Yeah.
I just love it. It's like people would write an essay about how this song changed the face of pop music in the 2000s, and she'll be like, I want another bowl of ice cream. What can we do? Well, Scorpios, I don't know. Well, obviously, it's my issue with water signs. It's really difficult for me. I went to this store this week, which was by a water sign. I'll soon tell you which water sign. So this Virgo person, tweeted about this store, and he said, if you're in Tel Aviv, there is this store. It's in a house, and all the proceeds go to cats and dogs, to a NGO or something that saves cats and dogs. And I was like, okay. So I show up, and this woman opens the door, and her entire house is covered in books, but like it's pretty neat. It's not like a hoarder's house. It's just they're really alphabetically organized and by genres and everything. And she lives there with her cat and her dog. And her first thing to do was to complain that we came. She was like, I'm closing in 10 minutes. Didn't you check the time? And I'm full Aries mode. I was like, I just checked the address. I didn't even know you had times. And she goes, and she like complained. Then she's like, how did you hear about me? And then I'm like, aren't you a store? Like, don't you want to sell your books? And she's like, yeah, but like, how did you hear? And I'm like, I got it from Twitter. And I say the name of the guy. And she's like, fuck this guy. He turned my house into a train station. Everyone's coming here. I'm like, whoa. And this guy's a Virgo. So he obviously was trying to support the world through literature. And she goes, she just was so funny. And obviously she was a Cancerian, turned her house into a bookstore to save cats and dogs. Like, it really is the peak Cancer behavior. But
yes. And then hated that people came.
You know, she was complaining. She was complaining that we came. She was complaining about the books that we wanted to get. She was just wasn't even passive aggressive about it. She was like, she called my friend. She said my friend has the same face that her dog does when he touches like a puddle of pee. She was like, oh my God, everything is coming back to me now. Horrible experience with a Cancerian.
Oh my God. I just love, I get a real sense of like the Tel Aviv that you live in when you tell these stories of people you meet on the street and like store people that are constantly screaming at you and you're screaming at them.
Oh my God. Well, if I'm already on stories about people I met on the street, I got a Scorpio, I got a Cancerian, and I also met last week is a Pisces guy in front of a vegan sushi shop. And he was it was hilarious. Like, I was just like, what are you, he was like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm gonna eat sushi. And then we ended up talking for an hour. I could guess he's a Pisces from like the second I saw him. Anyway, last night he came over for dinner, and now we're like fully like friends, even though he's too hot for me to like be normal next to. But what can I do?
Etai. Well, watch this space, everyone. Let's just see where this goes, shall we?
I don't think I'm built and made for water signs.
I know that you are built and made to want love, because I had the pleasure of meeting. Look, I got very shy, which I know is a surprise because now I'm Argentinian. So, like, what is feeling shy? It's not a word in my vocabulary, but I got the pleasure of meeting a local celebrity who I've been fangirling on Instagram for the last little while. Her name is Morita Vargas. She's a DJ, artist, producer, and an Aries. Etai, I am convinced that she is you in female form if you had grown up in Buenos Aires, like 100%. I was just like, I feel like she is you in the best possible way. But she, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I'm here. And she's like, what? No. And I'm like, yes. And I got really excited because she's a DJ, and she said, she went to meet with me and my friends, and she was performing, her friend was performing at this really cool thing. And I just felt like, wow, I'm definitely not cool enough to hang out with this local DJ celebrity who's just runs this town in the same way, Etai, that you would run this town if you were here for 3 days, like I've been. And yeah, so we went out, and she, as we were walking, she was saying that she's part of an underground collective of musicians and DJs. And my whole life, I've always wanted to be invited to be part of a collective or to be part of an underground anything. Like, everything I've done in my life has been above and or on ground or in the sky. Like, it hasn't ever been underground. And like, I've gone to cults. I've gone to, various cults that have now been dismantled because they were like abusing their power and stealing people's money. And every time I've gone to these cults through friends of friends of friends, no one's ever taken me aside and said, hey, like, do you want to come back next week? Or, hey, do you want to give us your bank account details? Or do you want to shave your hair off and relinquish your family or your Jewish identity? They've never asked me, and I've been gagging to be asked to join any collective group that is of any underground quality. So when she said that, I was just like, what does a girl have to do to be asked to be part of an underground DJ collective in Argentina? Like, I'm here, I'm available, I've got a couple of weeks. Like, I can't DJ, but I could try, I could learn. But another beautiful thing that she did mention as well, in addition to just being a lovely, beautiful, awesome person, she was saying like, oh, how's Etai? And she said like, I think Etai really wants love. And I was like, it's very funny. And she referred to you as a she, I think just mistakenly. And I said, that's funny because a lot of people think Etai is a woman. And she goes, yes, it's because of the voice, his voice. And I was like, it's so funny.
My voice.
Your voice.
Oh,
and,
my God.
She did mention that she thinks maybe secretly you do want love, to which I was like, look, maybe he does. And I remember that all of your school students, when you were a teacher in Australia, all of your school students were very, very excited when the marriage equality campaign was finalised and marriage, same-sex marriage in Australia became legal. They were so excited that finally you could marry the love of your life.
The only thing that held me back. But I'm so fucking jealous of you for meeting Morita Vargas. I've been following, obviously we've both been following her on Instagram and being super inspired. And
so inspired.
Like, her fans. But honestly, anyone I know from this podcast on Instagram, I just can't wait to get to their country and meet up with them, because everyone I've been following is literally the best person and super cool and interesting. And I want you to give her a hug next time you see her from me too, and from my feminine voice that I learned to love throughout my life. And it's funny she's saying...
She's you. I think she's you. She's an Aries. And I always get along famously with Aries. I think their energy, their drive, their passion, it just works so well with my crazy Gemini qualities. And it just... Like, as she was trying to leave the pizza shop where we were just having a bite to eat at 2 a.m., as they do in this country, which is now my home, the doors were locked, and she was just like, as a joke, shoving the doors up and down to get out. And I was just like, oh, it's Etai. Like, I feel like you would be here for 5 minutes and you would be part of an underground DJ collective of like feminist musicians who run underground parties and talk about politics and dress pretty fashionably. And I see you embodying that if you were here, for sure.
Buenos Aires, get ready, because I'm on my fucking way. But it is funny that she said that she thinks I'm actually looking for love, because I just went to see a witch the other week.
As you do.
And as you do when you are in the depth of your despair and you're looking for answers.
Not what my investigator said, Etai. Not what the rumors. Apparently you're doing well in Israel. I'm sorry.
I know what I always say. Don't believe Instagram. Don't believe Instagram, and don't believe people with an Aquarius rising, because, we can be very misleading. So basically, I went to see this witch, which my Pisces friend, she just texted me, do you want to go see a witch? And I was like, if that was any other star sign, I would think about it. But because it was my Pisces friend, I was like, yep, tell me when, I'll be there.
You'll schedule it in.
Obviously, I asked how much is it right before we got in. It was really expensive. So
really? I'm shocked that you asked how much it was. Like, I feel like you would just go in there in the same way that Lauren the Leo, who we talk about probably too much, got her hair done in Tel Aviv by the master of curly hair. What's his name? Tomer David?
Yes.
Is that his?
Yep.
Yes. And if you go on his Instagram, it's art, isn't it? Like his relationship with the curly hair. But she went in there lolling and Instagramming every second of her whole curly hair transformation and got this like weird frizzy perm hot thing going on. And then at the end of it, like, he obviously charged her an enormous amount of money, because that's what you do when a Westerner comes in who's on their phone the entire time filming the experience and laughing and smiling. And she didn't have enough money to pay for it in true Leo style. But
yep. Well, exactly. So you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared for how much you're going to pay. I learned it. Also, I am not allowed to have a credit card in Israel, but that's a story for another episode. So basically,
and didn't Lauren the Leo also take you jewelry shopping because she knew that you would enable her to buy gold, and you also wanted to buy some gold? So she sent you a text saying, "Hey, want to go shopping for jewels?" And then how many hundreds of dollars later, like.
It's just hilarious. You can learn a lot from our mistakes. Like, for example, so she was like the only person that will instantly say yes to a purchase of lots of money. It wasn't like it was really expensive. She was like, I have to text Etai. So I get there, and obviously I'm like, I'm going to buy something too, and they're going to give us a good price. So we both got our bling, and it's really expensive. And then we pay, and after we give them the money, Lauren goes, okay, can you give us a little gift? I'm like, Lauren, you can't bargain after you pay. Like, you're like, it's like when you're horny and you want to do disgusting things, and you're like, when you're horny, it's like, yeah, come in my mouth, come in my face, like all this gross shit. And then the second you're done, you're like, who am I? Like, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. Like, and then you just paid. Like, these people don't give a shit about how you feel. Like, it's just like, it's disgusting. And I know that wasn't like sexual positive. Maybe it wasn't the most sex positive thing, but I'm still learning.
No, I think that is 100. I have the image. You're saying like it's like after all of those things, but after the fact, someone going, okay, let's role play. And you're like, what? It's over. Like, get out of my house.
Who are you? That's gross. Don't touch me.
I had the pleasure of traveling with Lauren she's so Leo. She's dripping with it. She's so Leo that we talk about her every podcast, even during Scorpio season.
Podcast.
But in the sense of the bargaining, when I was traveling with her in India, me and my Libran friend would try and be bargaining for a taxi or a tuk-tuk, and Lauren would just sit inside the taxi. And she was tired, so she would sit inside. I'm like, it's very hard to bargain when you've already sat inside someone's taxi, Lauren. And then she would try and bargain, but she would get confused and she'd name a higher price. So she'd be like, 300 rupees. And I'd be like, Lauren, we're already at 150. Like, can you maybe just go and like sing or perform or do some street rapping or something like that? Because you're a total liability in this very moment. But anyway, back to your witch, where you paid a lot of money.
So I paid a lot of money and wasn't bargaining anything because I'm an Aries, and to me it's like shameful to bargain. So I'm like, I'll pay you more. So I go in, and she was a Libra, so she was obviously really hot and super like, how'd you call it? I know the right word, but she was, she had like her full blonde platinum blonde hair, and she was just sitting in this like magnificent pillow-filled room. It was very like fancy and done, and she was smoking constantly. We were in a room, in a closed room. Like, it wasn't like outside. There wasn't a window. It's like, do you mind if I smoke? And I was like, I can't say no. Like, it's your house. And then she just like smoked in chains the whole time. And when I was starting to talk about it, because Morita Vargas said that I still want love, but actually with the witch it was a bit mixed. Obviously she was a Libra, so when we picked the tarot cards and we asked about love, she was like, it's okay if you don't look for love, because it doesn't seem like it will serve you in the future. It seems like you kind of had your big love and you'll be okay on your own. And I was like, cool, that's exactly how I feel. Like, I'm not looking for love, but I always wondered if it's a positive or a negative. And then she was like, wait, let me look at your hand. And she goes and she looks at my palm, and then she goes, well, according to your palm, the greatest love of your life is still in the future.
Oh my God.
Still waiting for. And I was like, wait, so what should I do? And she goes, I don't know. It's just like, the tarot says this, your hand says this. I was like, okay, what did I want? What did I expect going to a Libra?
Oh my God. Can you compare that to when you got your astrology natal chart done by a Gemini? Compare the house, compare the experience.
We didn't even mention the word love when I was at the Geminis. Like, the word love was not there.
But how many other words would have been there? There was probably about 6 million words that were mentioned, and 6 million books.
Oh, there were a lot of books. There was no cigarettes. But she was like, maybe it sounds like I'm saying like it was a negative experience or she wasn't good. She was actually really, really good. So if you're in Israel and you're looking for a recommendation, then hit me up. She's also an American. So if you're a tourist in Israel, she speaks American English, which is very different to all the other Englishes, apparently, as I hear.
And I think the fact that the whole experience is part of that spirituality, because you were asked by your Pisces friend to go. You took a chance and you went, and you meet this Libran witch. Like, all of that is a symbol of, I am investing or taking time to think about these things and to talk about these things and to experience it. So it's actually, I think the symbolism of it, whatever she says, even if she says that, you're deeply looking for love or you should buy a cat or whatever it is, like there's something special in that experience. It's always worth the buckets of money that you don't have to do
100%. I really agree with that, and I think that everyone, whether you believe in it or not, I think it's always interesting to go and confront yourself with what people have to say, and then check, like, does it resonate? Does it not?
Exactly.
But I recommend. Definitely.
I was walking the other day next to the cultural center, Buenos Aires, and there's this woman sitting outside there with a little stall, just sitting there knowingly, and she was she was offering tarot and also palm reading as well. Obviously, it was for an exorbitant amount of money because, why would you take it seriously if it was an affordable thing? And my friend asked her in Spanish, how much, and she gave the amount, a huge amount. And I was just like, please, we need to keep walking, because she looked me straight in the eyes and she knew, like, I'm just this walking sucker. And I was like, fuck, I've been thinking about it ever since. Like, I'm like, when will I get back there? Because I need to get it done. Like, will I get the tarot and the cards read and my palm? Will I just get the tarot? Like, what will I get done? How much will I spend? What will I ask her? She said that she's been there every day for the last 22 years. I mean, look, I couldn't fact check, to be honest, but every day for the last 22 years.
Wow. Well, she's a dedicated witch. What can I say? And something you can know, even if you're not a witch, is that Mercury Retrograde is around the fucking corner.
Shit, yes.
So I think it's time for a little warning and preparation. So Mercury Retrograde is going to start at October 31st, and it's going to last until November 20th, which is,
oh my God.
I don't know what to say. I can say this week I can already feel, like, I woke up the other day, and you know how in cartoons when, like, there's something cooking in the oven, and then there's this, they can draw the smell going into the nose of the character.
Yes.
So I was asleep, and I could smell something that was so vivid, like a cartoon, and it was the smell of shit. It was the sewer under my building just exploded, and I was like, it was so strong. I live in the 3rd floor. It got into my nose, and I was like, the only conclusion I had was like, I shot myself during sleeping. Like I shot and it's not like every now and then I shit myself and I wake up and I'm like, oh, I shot myself again. Like it's not something that happens to me, but the smell was so strong. I was like, the only normal explanation that will make sense is that there's shit in my bed. And there wasn't, but it was to me.
Okay, I was waiting to be like, what happened?
No. The conclusion of the story is that Mercury is coming and it's gonna smell like shit in your bed.
Yes, but I will just add a positive reframe because I am one half Israeli, so I'm sorry. I know it's hard for people to stomach
one
my
half
positivity.
Israeli and
I've always
two
been,
halves Argentinian.
Yes, exactly, and that mathematically makes a lot of sense as well, doesn't it? 3 halves. But yes, it is Mercury retrograde coming up. It happens quite often, so it's not as bad as everyone says it is. It just means you need to go over things. You might have a bit of technical difficulties. It's fine. We've been there. We've talked about it a lot on this podcast. However, it's also Halloween, which has a lot of spiritual significance of, dressing up and the underworld and, the underground, which I'm never invited to be a part of. And it's also Scorpio season. So I think, when Mercury retrograde is happening in its respective season or sign, it takes on those qualities. So I love that the things that we keep hidden, the things that we keep taboo, the things that are not spoken of, and themes of, sex and death and rebirth, those things might be a bit jumbled or a bit present right now. So it's, if you take a very curious approach as opposed to a fearful approach, and I think that's for every season and every sign or every energy that we move into throughout the cycle that we go through every year. If you take that approach where you're like, what the fuck is this? Then you will embrace and glide through this season really well, and you might discover parts of yourself that you want to shed, or that and through shedding, through endings, is rebirth, is beginnings. So wow. I love that you cannot have one without the other. We can't move on to, your Aries initiation and newness and that yang, masculine, driven, forceful energy. We can't get there without some hardcore shedding, transformation, rebirth, soul searching, maybe some pashing, which in Australian terms, that means kissing, for those who don't know.
Making out.
Making out, exactly. Hooking up. But yeah, like embrace all those really crazy, wild, scorpionic, watery energies combined with the head fuck that is Mercury retrograde. I think it's fun. I love
it.
And yeah.
That's a beautiful sum up and words to the future. And I think I'm going to take it on board. And good. I want to thank everyone for sticking around, for staying for another episode. We will see you next time, and hopefully more transformed in new versions of ourselves in the next episode of Astrology Roast.